The clutter factor, it makes it nearly impossible to grab your prospect's attention today because 15 years ago, when my father first came out with Ultimate Sales Machine, a prospect would need to see your company 7 times before they remembered you. Today, it's 500 times. That's a 7,042% increase in visibility. So it's no wonder that we have such a hard time getting the attention of our prospects.
Here is your dose of the Ultimate Sales Machine coming to you from the new edition. Visit ultimatesalesmachine.com to get your copy or multiple copies. I am your host, Amanda Holmes, CEO of Chet Holmes International. What you're about to learn has assisted 250,000 businesses to generate billions of dollars, working faster, better, smarter.
One thing that my father did better than 99% of business owners, those were the things that didn't quite work out and were very difficult for us. But on the other side, he did leave a very clear roadmap on how to grow businesses. And luckily, I had that gift. I get a lot of people that say, wow, you have so many videos of your father. You're so lucky to have that, because they didn't have that. But I have hours and hours of my father teaching how to grow businesses. And one of his great quotes that I repeat over and over again is that mastery isn't about doing 4,000 different things. It's about doing 12 things 4,000 times. Because we have this shiny object syndrome where we think we have to focus on a million different things. But he has 12 different ways that if you just focus on one of them, that one could double your sales year after year. If you just got hyper focused and you used pig-headed discipline and determination. So is it okay if I transition over to educate on maybe one or two of those core competencies for doubling sales?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because and if you don't mind, from my own personal experience in working with you and your team, I would, I would like to chime in where appropriately.
Yes, please. I know you've gone through quite the transformation. The clutter factor, it makes it nearly impossible to grab your prospect's attention today because 15 years ago, when my father first came out with Ultimate Sales Machine, a prospect would need to see your company 7 times before they remembered you. Today, it's 500 times. That's a 7,042% increase in visibility. So it's no wonder that we have such a hard time getting the attention of our prospects. So we do a little thing called the stadium pitch. So if you imagine that you were in a stadium full of your potential prospects, what would be the title of your talk to get their attention long enough for you to educate them? What would be that title? Now, 90% of companies waste their time, money, and energy just focused on talking about themselves. Now, if I were doing this live in a group like I do, I would call people up and say, okay, spend 60 seconds now. What would be the title? Okay, share it with me. So it's something that you can do for those that are listening as homework. But the critical piece of what we call the stadium pitch is at any given time, let's say that you're cold calling 100 people, or you're speaking in front of a trade show room, or you're posting on your LinkedIn, roughly 3% will be in that buying now category. You make 100 cold calls, 3 people are saying, yes, I'm interested in that. Another 7% are open to it. They're thinking about it. Maybe they're doing some research. The next 30% are not thinking about it. The next 30% think that they're not interested in what you have to sell. And the last 30% are definitely not interested. So 90% of this buyer's pyramid is not interested in you, your product, or service. So the goal here is to create a stadium pitch that grabs the attention of the entire buyer's pyramid and educates them up into the buying now category. Do you want to speak to this at all, Tim?
Yeah, so this is a great concept because this is really what caught my attention. Everything that we have been taught prior to this has been focused on an elevator pitch, right? You're stuck in an elevator with somebody, or you jump on an elevator, somebody walks in, and all of a sudden you tell them, hey, I'm Tim Yurek and I sell insurance or I sell investments, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? At the end of the day, if that person isn't in the market, you got no shot with that person.
Yep.
But if I turn to them and say, hey, do you know that there's 3 disturbing trends that threaten small businesses and put the next generation at risk? These trends are responsible for people surrendering control of their cash flow, losing key personnel as they seek better opportunities, and possibly bankrupting the company. If that's a business owner, he's going to be interested. Hey, how does this affect me?
Yeah.
And I'd like to know that. So my point is that instead of trying to take a sniper's approach, right? This is more like a shotgun approach, just getting people warm to the idea. And if we could appeal to that, let's face it, for 37 years, I built a business on the 3% that were interested in what I had to say. And that's not saying that that market doesn't exist. It does. But I could tell you in the 9 months since we've engaged with Chet Holmes International, with you and your team, Amanda, our messaging has become much, much more clear. And the net, we're getting a larger amount of people into our funnel, primarily because we're appealing to what they're interested in, right? It's not about me. It's not about what I sell. It's about the problems that we solve that all of these people have.
You are living proof of it. I love that stadium pitch, by the way. That's so good. Anybody that's listening, if you want to hear that, tier1capital.com, you can actually hear that education, which it's freaking great. Okay, so you gave a great example of this. The story that I said originally, right? I'm a perfect example of this. I had a big problem, but I lacked the education to know where to start. I was in the not thinking about it category. There are prospects out there that need you, and they just don't know that they do. It is your job. We have another one in the dojo that he's done his best work working with widows. And he's, but I can't target widows. And I'm like, why the heck not, man? My mom needed it so bad. We really had no idea. If someone had said, here's the 4 things you need to know when losing a loved one that could cost you the money you have left for your life, we would have been perked right up and said, yes, please let me know, because we have someone on death's door and we're not doing anything about it. Preempting that. And then you're preempting all the competition, because the top 3% is who all your competition is fighting over. So then you get outside of that battle and you're in the free zone. You're getting the opportunity. So this was another client of ours. They came from pharmaceutical sales and they had to launch a new consumer product. It was an all-natural cramp cream. And they spent all this resources on advertising on how to go to market. They didn't know how to go to market, and they couldn't quite figure out the message. So it was very tactical in their approach. They were talking about empowering women through health and wellness self-care, learn about the new control cramp cream. So that's only going to reach about 3% that are already looking for all-natural cramp cream. Versus they got their opportunity to pitch to Walmart, potentially distribute their product. So they hired us to write what we call a core story, their stadium pitch. They started attending our boot camps, just practicing over and over again. How do I get this messaging right? And this was a bit of their stadium pitch. So periods wreak havoc with women's lives. Up to 40% of adult women suffer from PMS. It's the #1 reason women miss work, school, and activities, and it counts for an average of 23.2 days of suffering annually. That's the equivalent of a 3-week vacation. There are 3 smart solutions to take control of your period pain, with important pros and cons you need to know about options. I'm telling you, I've shown this to men who said, I have a daughter or I have a niece. I'd love to send them this, right? Not even in the 3%, but now you're appealing to a wider audience. And because of that education, you're going to grab their attention. You want to say something to that, Tim?
Yeah, you made it, you alluded to it, but if you could talk about the difference between being tactical and being strategic, because that was a game changer for us.
Yes. So what is a tactic? A tactic is very focused on, I want to win a sale. And that's what we think. I want to generate a lead. I want to win a sale. And it's a cold call. It's a brochure. It's a social media post. It's very focused on short term. Whereas a strategist thinks about the long term. They think about the ultimate objectives that you'd like to accomplish with a prospect. And if you're being strategic, you're thinking, wow, I'd really like to be the #1 expert in my field. What would it take to create that? If I want them to refer me lots of clients, what would it take to create somebody that is a raving fan? If I wanted the ultimate objective to be that I preempt my competition so nobody else ever has a chance, you can achieve 8 different strategic objectives with just one tactic. But majority of people have so many different shiny objects that they're so tactical, we're forgetting about creating that strategy. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so what I found with you're constantly building rapport.
Mm,
You're constantly positioning yourself as the expert. Not it's not even in a conscious way of doing it. It's everything is almost like subconsciously you're positioning yourself as the expert. And I could tell you that we shared this earlier today during the workshop, but just because of resetting the buying criteria and
mm,
providing the buyer's guide, that has positioned us as literally as the expert in our field. And for 37 years, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm pretty damn good at what I do. And people recognize that. And I didn't have a way to deliver that confidence and that message
mm.
until we started working with you. And that was literally I think that was the first piece of collateral we got.
Yep. Oh, that makes me so happy. And it's very common that companies don't know how to explain their unique selling proposition. And there's a lot of strategic things that you can do so that nobody else is even anywhere near you because you've set it all up. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love when I get to share this and then you're actually living it and breathing it. So you can speak to your own personal opinions. This is so great. Okay. So with this particular client, it's not about something that you do once and you stop, right? Practice. So they practiced, they went to one of our challenges, they went to boot camps, they posted on social media, they were practicing. And then that one day when it came, when they were presenting to Walmart, they ended up winning that dream account and it paid off. They were in 4 stores and they went to 800 stores with just one appointment. And that's where I talk about how do you make quantum leaps with just being smarter about every move you make. So their message won out against thousands of other potential products that Walmart was seeing that day. And they only had, I think it was short, it was like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But here's a critical takeaway that I want everyone to either write down or take a picture of. Market data is way more motivational than product data. I'm not talking about control cramp cream and how its efficacy. I was talking about the painful problem that your prospects are experiencing. And for them, it was women have painful periods. And then we went into all this data about how they're afraid to even share how painful it is. And it's shunned in work environments, and yet it accounts for so much absenteeism for women in the workplace. And that market data is way more motivational than product data.
Yeah, and I'll just add this. So to think about how remarkable it was for your client to win the Walmart account. And Walmart is notoriously brutal in their negotiations with vendors. I have a client who's in the distribution industry
Oh, okay.
and he was selling a specific item. And they call every year, they call in all the vendors to Bentonville, Arkansas.
Okay.
And so this particular date, let's say it was a Monday, was supposed to be for the product that my client was selling to
Okay.
Walmart.
Yeah.
And so he gets there the night before in the hotel. They're downstairs at the bar. He's talking to 4 or 5 other vendors of the same product that he has.
Mm.
And he finds out that he is probably a nickel a sack of this particular vegetable less than the closest person that he had spoken to, right? They were bringing in 5 vendors. The other 4, he was a nickel cheaper than the rest of the guys.
Okay.
So he walks into his meeting and they say, Mike, you're going to have to lower that cost because we got better deals. He's, no, I'm not doing it. And they're like, then you're going to lose the account. He said, okay. And he just got up and walked away. By the time he got back home and he got to his office, there was plane tickets from Walmart to send him back. That never happens. But my point is, they are so brutal in their negotiations. They pretty
Wow.
much they know all the data,
Oh
but
my God.
he
That
had
is
them on
awesome.
that one.
That is such a good story.
the
Oh
point
my.
is, it's remarkable that your client, not having had any previous experience,
In Walmart, yeah.
because of their knowledge and of market data,
Yep,
was able to position themselves.
it was
Uh,
huge.
yeah,
And it was so fascinating to watch them come back, and you've seen some of these other things that we do, right, where the challenge and they just kept testing their stadium pitch over and over again because it meant big dollars for them if they got that thing right and they had one chance. It was fascinating. Okay. So, what is this thing that we're talking about? I called it a stadium pitch. That's really the title, but the meat and the crux of it is called the core story. So, the core story method connects compelling facts with emotions into a story that grabs the attention and resets the buying criteria. So, you are the only logical conclusion. This is a masterful piece, and if you can work on this for the next decade and beyond, you will be so far a strategist, and the strategist will my father used to say, slaughter the
yes.
tactician every single time.
Yeah, and I could tell you that since we've implemented our core story, it again, that's another game changer, and the whole package has really just positioned us not only to be the expert, but it just makes things so much easier for us because we're not changing hats. We're not doing anything. We're just continually telling our story, and it's continuously bringing in the people that we want, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're out there marketing and you're trying to cast a wide net and get everybody, and you can't be all things to all people.
Right.
And we're very focused on who we're giving our pitch to, so to speak, but who we're telling our story to. And oh my gosh, I can't tell you the difference that of the leads we're getting have been really good. Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right? We're here at for a very short time on this earth, and it's really about helping people, getting them to do the things that they want to do for the people that they want to do it for,
Yep.
right? And that's the thing that I think a lot of folks miss because we're so entrenched in just building that business and moving ahead and being successful and buying whatever you want it is that makes you happy. But at the end of the day, it's really about the relationships.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I like so much about working with you and your team is we have relationships. When it's,
Yeah.
I could pick up the phone and call Troy or you or Jerry, and oh my gosh, it's just every time it's Old Home Week, and it's really refreshing.
It's been such a pleasure to do this with you, Tim. Thank
Thank
you.
you. No, it's been our pleasure. And thanks boy, you really did come prepared. And thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Make sure to get your copy or copies at theultimatesalesmachine.com. There's a lot of special bonuses that you can't get going to Amazon, so make sure you check it out at ultimatesalesmachine.com.